Human trafficking is real in North Carolina. We have to do our part to fight it. We need to learn about it and understand that it doesn't always look the way that we think it does. It's happening all around us, in our banks, in our grocery stores, in our neighborhoods. Today, we're going to dispel some common myths about human trafficking.
North Carolina is not only a populous state, but it's located equidistant between New York and Florida. We have many interstates, airports, many large cities, particularly Charlotte and Raleigh. And so all the elements are there, unfortunately, to make our state a right place for human trafficking, both sex trafficking and labor trafficking.
So it's definitely a myth that human trafficking only affects girls and women. It affects boys and also affects men. It's unfortunate that if people have that mindset that they may actually miss those very critical signs that this boy or this man may be trafficked, whether it be sexual or labor trafficked.
The human trafficking victim is one of all races, creeds, colors, and ages, but it usually comes from somebody who is now gaining something from that trafficker that they didn't have before.
Most of these traffickers are very manipulative and they control by various methods. Sometimes, of course, they're going to present themselves as to kind of saving the person from this life of poverty that they're in. Or in many cases, if the person is already addicted to drugs, they'll provide them with the drugs. Or if they're not addicted to drugs, one of the first things that many traffickers will do is get them dependent on drugs, particularly heroin. And then the only way that they can satisfy that addiction is to get that from the trafficker.
These individuals are very, very talented at getting inside individuals' heads and telling them who they are and what they want in a way that those victims believe that they have met their best friend, they met their love for life, they're going to be married, and they're going to be taken care of. And these individuals have only one goal, and that is for that victim to make money for that trafficker.
Well, when an officer sees something that in their mind is not right, if it doesn't look right, they've got to continue to ask the questions. So if you had a traffic stop and you see a young person, be it a male or a female, with an older person, try to identify who they are, what the relationship is. If it doesn't add up, if that person won't speak for themselves, they need to continue to dig and ask questions.
It's not just walk up to the car and issue a citation and leave. If you see something in the vehicle that may draw your attention, age difference in the people that's in that vehicle, or if the passenger's not doing a lot of talking, then we try to dig a little deeper into the traffic stop and see what we can find in the investigation. Hey, it's Trooper Cup with the North Carolina Highway Patrol. The reason we stopped is for just a wellness check. You got your driver's license and your registration on you?
Yeah. There's the license.
Hey, ma'am, how you doing? Do you have an ID on you, ma'am?
Hey, she's good. She's good.
You have an ID on you? You got an ID for you, ma'am?
I got hers too.
You got her ID too?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. If I could get you to step out with me, I'm gonna get you back here. We write you a warning for the violation and we'll get you on your way, okay? If I was to run across a case of human trafficking or believed to be human trafficking, at that point I would really separate those two people. I would contact other members on my unit and get them to come to my location. We will try our best to interview the two people.
When we do an operation, we're identifying potential human trafficking victims, bringing them to us, not to arrest them, but to get them in front of a social services or a nonprofit organization to be able to get them help. And so during that same event, we're also looking for the individuals that might have brought them there.
Victims sometimes do not reach out to law enforcement officers. So it's up to us to ask the questions and continue investigating until there's no more questions to ask.
Another type of human trafficking we have in North Carolina is labor trafficking, and that can be either underage people that are forced to work, or it can be anybody that is forced to work by means of coercion, threat of violence, fraud, anything like that. We see it in all types of fields. We see it in the restaurant field, the construction field. We see it a lot in the agricultural field. These people are controlled by intimidation or coercion. They are not paid a minimum wage. They are not treated well. They are not treated fairly. And labor trafficking is a problem in North Carolina.
So about 90% of victims of human trafficking will present to a healthcare facility of some type, whether it's dentistry, hospitals, urgent cares. And so we have an opportunity during that time they're being trafficked to intervene with that victim and help them to get out of that situation. They may not always be in a situation where they're ready to do that for a variety of reasons because of the constraints that are placed upon them by their trafficker, but it's an opportunity for us to intervene.
Victims often do not ask for help. They feel ashamed, they feel frightened, they feel trapped, they feel like they are stuck in their situation, and some of them even feel like somehow they've been convinced that they've brought their situation on themselves, when in fact they have not, hence they're victims.
In many cases, the victims may think they're in love with the trafficker. In many cases, they admire the trafficker. And in many cases, they've been in this organization so long that it's all they know. It's how they're given material things, food, clothing, whatever they may need. So they'll be very reluctant to provide information about the trafficker. They'll be very reluctant to admit they're in danger and reluctant to seek help.
They're kind of stuck in the lifestyle in some ways, or they feel like if they say something, may have repercussions from that. So you have to be careful about what you say and who you say it to, because if the people who are controlling them are with them, you may actually put that person in significant harm, when they leave that situation.
Being a trooper, the uniform in and of itself is something that scares a lot of people in general. So when dealing with these victims, we have to remind ourselves that we do have to tone down a little bit of the authority figure and try to dig into that person. Try to talk to them and let them know that we are people. Once they get to that level of knowing that we're people, they're more likely to open up to you.
It's essential for law enforcement to partner with our service providers, and in many cases our NGOs or non-governmental agencies, because in many cases the victims of the human trafficking, those that are being trafficked, they may be underage individuals, or they may be young ladies. They can also be young men. To treat these victims of trafficking like a common criminal as it relates to maybe prostitution, for example, is usually not going to bring about a successful result. We've got to get treatment for these victims of human trafficking, and then part of that treatment being getting them in a position where maybe they can help law enforcement build a case against the trafficker.
But what is unique about human trafficking cases is that you really have to have the victim services offices playing a role with you in terms of investigations, or it just will not work, because victims are very hesitant to talk to law enforcement unless they have that support system from victim service providers.
In North Carolina, we would like to extend our welcome to all law enforcement officers. If you would like more training, if you feel like you're not getting enough, or if you feel like some of the questions aren't answered, please reach out to the North Carolina Human Trafficking Commission, myself and others. We'll be glad to walk you through and help you get the training that you need. Our North Carolina Justice Academy partnership is unique, and they're open-armed as well to try to help law enforcement find out more and how to be able to stop and identify individuals that are involved in human trafficking in North Carolina.